Hey guys, Matthew here. So a quick addition to the video I just made about currency farming. I know that I spoke about chaos recipe farming, and that's something I've been advocating for a while now. And a lot of people think it's a noob trap. Even some advanced players think it's just bad. That's another thing I saw in quite a few of the videos that I've watched on how to make currency lately. It's like, oh, skip the chaos recipe. It's a noob trap. Don't do it. Blah 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 blah. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why it's not and why you should do it and how you should do it basically real quick in this video. So essentially the reason we do chaos recipe is because chaos recipe only works, not calculator, sorry, only works from item levels from 60 to 75. That being said, you only need, well, technically 74. You only need one item from your entire set of gear, which is one amulet, two rings, armor, well, body armor, gloves, boots, helmet, and either two one-handed weapons or one two-handed weapons. And this includes a bow, as far as I know. So yeah, so an amulet, two rings, body armor, gloves, helmet. Oh yeah, and I forgot a belt. So basically a full set of gear for a character that is rare in between item level 60 and 74, right? So there's two strategies when it comes to basically the chaos recipe when it comes to doing it versus not doing it. So when it comes to doing it, the thing is, like I said, you need a full set of gear and it's got to be rare, which means you need to get all these rares to be able to do a single chaos recipe. I would say do it unidentified. Identified for 2 chaos, because if you do it identified, like if you identify the items, you only get 1 chaos for it. You want to do the unidentified version, and the reason for that is fairly simple. A lot of people from the videos I've been watching are basically saying, do the identified, you never know when an item is going to sell, right? You never know when one of these items that you pick up is actually going to be worth more than if you just use it in the chaos recipe. And that is true. The thing is, from my experience, I can tell you that the only things that you're going to be selling for the most parts are going to be rings and belts. Oops. And belts. And to some extent, there's also boots. Right? That's the 3 things from the chaos recipe that's actually going to sell. Trust me, you're probably not going to sell any amulets you pick up because there's too many good uniques at the moment. And to get a good amulet to actually sell that's better than a 1C unique, you're going to need a really good amulet. You're probably not going to sell any body armors because people are just going to go for a tabula because they want links over everything else. You're probably not really going to sell gloves because there's a shit ton of 1C unique gloves that are actually really good. You're probably not going to sell helmets because the same thing. There's a lot of unique helmets that are really good, and until you get specific helmets, you're just not going to sell them. And weapons, more than likely they're going to be trash because the odds of getting a good weapon when it comes to identifying them is extremely, extremely, extremely low. So all you have to actually sell is rings, belts, and boots, right? Now let me show you why I personally believe in the chaos recipe. It's fairly simple. It's just a question of odds. So if I go to boots, for example, and I go to strength boots, and I look at the item level required for mods, you can see that life can roll all the way down to level 54. So that's pretty good. So that means you can get a T1 life on item level 54 item. Same thing for hybrid life, 46, that's pretty easy. Movement speed up to 50, as soon as you're in the level 55 zone, you can get 30 MS, right? So should be pretty good. The problem comes with like resistances, right? To get an actual resistance roll, you're going to need at least level 72. But to get T1, you need 84. And that holds true for a lot of other stats. Same thing for strength, for example. 74 for really good strength. Otherwise, it's 82. And 66, it goes down and it goes down and it goes down. And you could do the same thing by looking at all the weapons. For example, we could have a look at claws. If you were to identify some claws, right? You wouldn't really care about mana. But for example, a good hybrid roll starts at like level 60, but the ones that you really want is like 73 and then 83. Then if you look at percent physical, it's kind of the same, 60, but then 73, 83. Then if you look at physical ones, or sorry, elemental damage rolls, it's even worse, 74 and 82. So, what I'm getting to, basically with this, is that the odds of identifying an item, right, the odds of identifying an item that is really good in the range of level 60 to 74 is very small because the mod pool is really, really limited because most of the good rolls kind of start at this level and go beyond. So for example, on a ring, to give you guys another example, on a ring, you could get some life. You could get the highest life roll. It's really low level. You could also get the highest physical damage roll. It's really low level. But when it comes to elemental damage rolls, it's really high level to get the highest ones. So you wouldn't be getting these items when it comes to the chaos recipe, right? To get a really good wed roll, T1, it's also level 81, so that's not going to happen either. You could get T2 though, and that is worthwhile as well. If you look at resistance rolls, again, 72. So basically, even if it was 72, right? Blood Aqueducts, I believe, is a level 60 zone. Let me verify that, because I don't quite remember. So we're going to go ahead and verify that. It might be 66. No, there's no way it's 66, right? That's T1 maps. I think T1 maps are level 66. 61. So Blood Aqueducts is a level 61 zone, alright? So if you start looking at the rolls that are actually worthwhile on some of these things, it's like 60, but if you look at resistances, it's like 72. So you're not even going to get to the second best, right? So if you look at, let's say, intelligence, because that tends to be worth a little bit, 74, 66. You're not even going to get up to this roll. Like, you're going to be stuck in all these lower rolls, right? So what I'm getting to is that the odds of identifying something that is actually worthwhile selling is so incredibly low that the time that it's going to take for you to identify and price check and everything is heavily going to outweigh the profit that you would get by simply dumping it in a tab, not identifying it, and getting your consistent 2 chaos each. Now, once you get to higher tier mapping, middle yellow maps, T8, T9s, T10s, or red maps, then you start only picking up the best bases, so like T1, T2 bases. So for example, you wouldn't pick up like really garbage, let's see, PoE Wiki sword, for example. Let's have a look at that. So what I mean by bases is I mean the actual base of the sword, right? So you want to pick up only the good ones. For example, you'd pick up only, I don't know, I'm not a fan of swords at all. I don't think anybody is. But we can look at foils, because foils are much better. So you would pick up like jeweled foils. You maybe would pick up harpy rapier, kinda. You could pick up dragoon swords. They're a little bit niche though. You'd probably like pretty much only pick those up, right? You wouldn't pick up val rapiers. Probably wouldn't pick up spiraled foils or pecoros or tempered foils or any of the other garbage, right? And it's the same thing that holds true with bows, claws, etc. So you'd only pick up the good bases, and at that point, you would be in a higher item level, therefore the mod pool is larger, which allows you to get better rolls on your items, which then good bases plus good rolls equals money, right? At that point, when you're farming like Blood Aqueducts for Chaos Recipe, for example, to afford your tabula or to be able to just get enough gear to go to maps, and then you keep farming Chaos Recipe in the lower tier maps, it's going to be way more consistent and way more profit than if you were to identify any of the garbage rares and try to price check and sell them. Mostly because it's just way better in terms of time efficiency. The time that you're spending identifying the items, picking up the transmutes and stuff to be able to have enough scrolls of wisdoms, and the time price checking every single item, especially when the API is more than likely going to be dead. Let's be honest here, in the first day of a league, the API is probably not going to work whatsoever, so we're all going to be SSF. In that case, you're better off literally just forgetting about all this identifying bullshit. Just do the chaos recipe, get the chaos every single time you can, and then buy what you actually need to progress through the atlas to higher tier maps. And once you get to higher tier maps, once you get access to good bases, once you get access to the good mod rolls and the good mod tiers, then pick up only T1 bases, identifying them and throw them in a dump tab with whatever price you decide. Don't even price check them, and only price check them once you get message for them. So if you put up a foil in your dump tab for 5C and somebody PMs you like 2 seconds later, chances are it's worth more than 5C. If it's only 1 PM though, maybe it's just somebody who happens to need that specific foil, you might want to sell it. if you put up a ring, let's say, in a 5C dump tab and you get 3 PMs within 2 minutes, chances are that ring is worth more and somebody's trying to flip it on you. And when I say 3 PMs, it's probably going to be more like 30 because a lot of people try to flip rings and boots and belts. Because like I said, rings, boots, and belts are the most sought after and the easiest thing to flip early league compared to like body armors, gloves, and all the other stuff. So, what I recommend, do the chaos recipe until exalts are around 70C. Around the 70C mark, so around the early day 2, is when chaos recipe just kind of jumps out the window and is no longer worth doing. Let's say exalts are like 120C. There's no reason to do the chaos recipe, man. You're going to waste so much time actually picking up the goddamn crappy rares. You're better off just outright just doing another map instead. That being said, when exalts are all the way up to 60, 70C, you can probably do chaos recipe and it's going to be worth your time. Because at that point, it's consistent and it's going to allow you to buy all the things you need for your own build to be able to progress past the chaos recipe. Because I think the chaos recipe is a day 1, day 2 thing, and then I never do it again, ever. So, that's basically my thoughts on the chaos recipe and why you should do it, and why it's really not a noob trap. And I think even really good groups of players should do the chaos recipe, because it's just really, really good. The thing is, you have to be efficient with it, and basically that's what brings me to the last point of this video, is basically how to be efficient with the chaos recipe. So this is the example of a chaos recipe tab. It's not necessarily the most efficient thing. I have an example on my YouTube channel that is way more efficient. The thing is, it takes way longer to set up. This is probably going to take you about 2 to 3 minutes to set up, and then you're good, right? So the way this works is that you have some 1 lines for belts or rings or amulets, right? Some 1 lines. Then you have some quad ones, so only boots, gloves, and helmets can actually fit in there. And then afterwards, you're going to have your weapons and your body armors that are going to fit into the rest, right? So the idea is that by simply control-clicking everything in your inventory, I think it's control, maybe shift, I don't remember, it's going to auto-place itself. Yes, it's not going to be perfect, and you might end up with a ring where you should have a helmet or whatever and blocking, but it's going to be infinitely better. Oh, I'm sorry if you guys heard that. That was a follow on OBS. It's going to be infinitely better than actually just having multiple different tabs for each specific item type. So for example, I'm sure you guys have seen the Gucci clip where he has like 1 tab per item type, so 1 tab for amulets, 1 tab for rings, and then he just scrolls through the tabs really fast. I think he's using the arrow key on his keyboard and just pick up everything really quickly. I don't think that's efficient whatsoever, because yes, you can pick up everything real quick, but how long does it take to actually dump everything in the proper tabs and not make any mistakes? Probably a lot, and if it's not too much time, then it's probably just a lot of brain power, and I don't really have brain power, so I try to get every single advantage that I can. So setting up a tab like that within a couple minutes is a lifesaver. So this, by the way, was made by a Whelp XD on a Reddit post called Chaos Recipe Guide for the Middle Class. How to do it properly in detail, whatever. So huge thanks to you, Whelp XD. But yeah, otherwise there's the version I have on my YouTube, but it takes way longer to set up. That being said, it's way more efficient. So if you're doing it in a big group, you probably want to use my method on my YouTube, because you'll be able to just do a lot more volume and way faster than with a method like this. But if you're playing solo and you only intend to do Chaos Recipe for a couple hours or a few hours early in the league, then this is probably the method for you. Either way, huge thank you to my Patreons once again. Huge thank you to all of the guys supporting me, watching, subscribers, etc., etc. You can check out my Patreon or my Twitch if you want to support me directly. And otherwise, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.